Hi there, I'm Michael Hill with Canine Chronicle TV, and today for our Influencers series, I'm here with Jeri El Dissi, and we are going to find out who was influential in her time in the sport of dogs. How are you, Jeri?
I'm fine. Thank you, Michael.
Amazing. So let's start at the beginning. How did you first end up getting into dogs in the first place?
My mom, and she's probably my biggest influence, of course.
Yeah.
She bought her first Malamute when in 1964 and started doing a little bit of obedience
Okay.
and then went to a dog show and fell in love with the dog that was there. And he was 6 months old in the puppy class. And she wanted to buy him.
Mm.
And that was Lois Ullman of Glacier Kennels. And at that time, she didn't want to sell the dog, but my mom gave her information and said, if you ever want to sell this dog, I want him.
I'll be here.
Yeah. Yep. And a few months later, she did want to sell him because she liked the brother better. And they started to get into dog fights because males will be
Teenage
males.
boys.
So she decided to sell Bear, that was his name,
Wonderful.
Storm Cloud, to my mom. And my mom then learned how to show from her. And he became the #1 Malamute in the country. And he's still to this date, the top producing Malamute of all times. And that
Well,
was
that's quite a way to
before,
start.
yeah, that's before even we had the frozen
Oh
semen,
my.
so there was never any frozen
Wow.
semen on him. So he is still to this day the top producing Malamute of all times.
So she had an eye from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
so that she just fell in love with the breed. And I started showing in obedience when I was 6, not showing, but training in obedience. And then by 8, I started in junior showmanship because you could be 8 back then.
Wow. And
So that
so
was
from
in
the beginning,
1968, 55 years ago.
so you were hooked from the very beginning. There was never a question in your mind about the dogs.
No, no, it's
Amazing.
been my life,
Did you know that you wanted to be a professional handler too at that young age?
No, because I probably didn't even know what one was then. She became my handler when I was a teenager, a professional handler. And so then I went to all the shows with her and was like her assistant.
Hmm.
So, and I also showed her dogs because she would show clients' dogs. So I finished all of her dogs, and she's finished almost 250 champions.
Wow.
Yeah. So she
And
is
for those
the
who don't know, what's the
top
kennel name?
Storm Cloud Kennels.
Storm
And
Cloud Kennels.
yeah, so she was a professional handler with PHA, and I was her assistant, and I showed other people's dogs as well for her, but I also showed mostly her dogs. So I campaigned her dogs a lot to the top dogs in the country. So
What a great strategy for a kennel where she can, do the professional handling. You're moving the breeding dogs, and then also
mhm,
you're learning in real time about breeding and a kennel and a bloodline as well. And I'm sure that still
exactly.
is imprinted in your brain today. Was there anything from those times that shaped you as a breeder that stands out to you?
Well, I don't do or haven't done a lot of breeding,
Hmm.
probably because I grew up with it so much. And
Sure.
my love is handling and grooming and training. The breeding part, because my mom always had so many litters and was selling a lot of puppies, because big kennels back then were the thing. It's pretty rare now. Um,
Right.
and she probably had, I mean, I'm not saying exaggerate, she probably had 3 or 4 litters a year, which probably isn't that much, but it's enough. It's enough so that
Yeah.
you
Well,
just always had something rolling and coming and evaluating and taking care of the puppies and selling the puppies. And my mom was on the phone because she's always the type that gives help to her puppy
mhm.
people. So she's on the phone probably 20 hours every day, and
Oof.
talking to people, helping them through things, and so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
it's a lot
And
of
she
work.
still is now, even though she hasn't had the litter in probably 10 or 12 years, she's still always on the phone talking to her people that were under her mentors, helping them with, have you seen this? Have you ever heard of this? Have you done this? What should I do for that? She still is so helpful to anybody that needs information about the breed.
Mhm.
Um, and so uh, I did a
That wasn't
lot of
appealing.
that with her, you know, all the
Yeah,
time. And I
yeah.
was always helping her with the dogs, and I was over there evaluating puppies even after I moved out, and working with her dogs and all of that until she retired and became a judge. But so I didn't do a lot of breeding myself, because she still was doing it for all the years except for the past 10 years. And now I'm
Right.
actually to the age where I don't want to do a lot of breeding either.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. I mean, I handle I handle anywhere from 10 to 25 dogs at shows. So
That's
I
enough.
can't take on puppies a lot either, so
Sure,
I don't
sure.
do a lot of it. I do, again, mentoring other people that want to have the litters.
Yeah, giving them advice and feedback on their puppies and breeding decisions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So as the handler and as the competitor, what in particular in your breed makes a great one, and which of those dogs that you piloted kind of really stand out in your brain as that?
Well, the most important thing in our breed is unlike a lot of other breeds, or at least that I think we don't judge on anymore, which is the function for what the breed is for. It's the number one statement in our breed, is what they do is the most important thing.
Yeah,
And so I want to see a very strong, very well-built, very powerful dog. When he moves, you want to be able to see the power in him. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be that he moves the fastest in the ring, or that he's the flashiest in the ring, but that he's
right.
the most powerful in the ring. So that if you're in a snowstorm, this dog is the one that's going to get you home and save your life. And
Yeah,
that's the most important thing in our breed. And so that's what I look for when I'm campaigning a dog, is something that you're going to go, wow, that baby's going to get me home.
yeah. And that's form following function, right?
Right. Right.
Amazing.
So, and my mom always worked all of her dogs too. So
Really?
she ran the Iditarod with an all Malamute team.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Did you ever work the dogs as well? Did you do the Iditarod
I
or
don't
anything
do
like
the
that?
sledding part of it, but I do the weight pulling. I
Yeah.
like the weight pulling, but the actual getting out and sledding, I'm more of a beach type of person.
Same.
That's why I also have
Coming from
Salukis.
LA.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, the
um,
Salukis. I love it.
but again, I admire my mom, because she's still at the age in her mid 80s, is still taking her old dogs, which is all she has left right now, out on the ATV and running them
Wow.
several miles a day. Um, she just loves that. I mean, that's her thing, is working the dogs was always more important than showing the dogs. That
Yes, it
if they
was.
couldn't do the job, then they weren't going to get bred.
And she was truly dedicated to that breed and
She was
preserving its
dedicated to that.
purpose.
Yep. As well as even the females. If a female couldn't have puppies naturally,
Yeah.
it was put in a pet home.
Wow. You don't see that very much anymore.
No, because she believes that they're a primitive breed, and if they can't
Sure.
take care of their puppies and they can't whelp them, then she's not
They're not
passing
doing
that gene on.
C-sections out there, right?
Nope, she's not passing that gene on.
Incredible.
She was
So
very tough.
other than your mother, when you were, starting to build up a career and you're moving out on your own and becoming, a full-time professional handler, who else was impactful in guiding you in the business and the competitive nature of that field?
Well, two handlers that I really enjoyed watching and that I learned a lot from were Betty Leniger, who just passed recently, and was, I feel so bad about that, because she was an amazing woman. And the
Yeah.
other one was Eugene Blake. Those are my two favorite handlers to watch, and that I've learned a lot from over the years.
What
I used to
specific
like watching
things
handlers.
stand out from them? Like, do you remember a specific memory or a way that they did something with the dogs?
Well, Gene, when he was handling Kareem, it was just like a poetry in motion type of thing. He was just so classy about how he handled the dog. And even though Kareem himself wasn't the prettiest of Salukis, he just made him beautiful because of how he handled them. And I always liked
The
that.
presentation.
Yeah. And Betty was just amazing with her appearance and her dress and how she handled Dobermans and things like that. I just liked following her, and I took some classes from her because she did classes in our area, you know, on handling and so on and so forth when I was younger, and so she added a lot to what I've learned.
Elegant and professional, and
well dressed and put together, and you know, I
reflecting
always
that in your
try to
dog's
do the same thing, you know. I like to maybe a little more bling, but I love bling. So
well, you have to find your own style too.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
We take those bits and pieces, and that's why it's an influence, not an imitation.
Yeah.
And then my last question for you is, as far as the business side of things, as far as the operations, was there anybody who kind of helped you learn how to do that and to do that successfully? Because that's a hard skill for a lot of people who might love dogs but not have training or exposure to running a business.
Yeah. Well, again, my mom would be the influence on that because she did do it, and we did stuff together, you know, the whole time. So like we grew up in it together.
Learning side by side.
Yeah. But she did more of obviously the paperwork and the professional end as I was a teenager. But later then she helped me with that, as well as my husband helping me with that kind of stuff. But we had a pet supply business too. So I used to be a vendor at the dog shows. And so I was a general supply vendor. And then we opened up a 8,000 square foot warehouse. It was the largest in the Midwest of just dog and cat supplies for. So I sold like all of the top show
brands
supplies. Yeah.
And that probably was helpful for your handling business, that you have something that's related, but also in a different venue. To provide stability on a, when sometimes we have things that happen that could make getting to the shows difficult, or weather, or dogs getting sick that would throw off your business.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I learned a lot about all the chemicals, the stuff that you put on the dogs, what worked for what dog, and people coming into my store. Plus I did handling classes and that kind of stuff. So I would get a lot of clients doing handling classes. So that was a big part of my business, was doing that for many, many years. And I just retired from that about 10 years ago.
Wow. So now that you look back on all these different components and the memories that you've had in dogs, what are some of the things that, especially like in the handling classes, or if you ever have had someone assisting you or working for you, what are kind of like the biggest takeaways that you're keeping in the back of your mind to impart on somebody, or you might be sharing with other professionals to share with someone who's newer or younger and looking to kind of set up their own trajectory in the sport?
Well, I think that that the younger generation, although they attempt to work hard, they need to focus on working harder.
I like that.
So many of them are like, yeah, I work really hard. And I think to myself, you don't even know what working hard means. My mom, again, was extremely tough. So she
was a Malamute.
Yeah, exactly. So she spent a lot of hours with the dogs, and there was a time my assistants are always complaining about that we don't get time to eat, and I'm like, but the dogs come first, we go out after we're done, after best in show's over with, we can go grab something to eat and come back, and then we bike the dogs, and then we run exercise the dogs and take care of them. So there's only like a 2-hour span when we're away from the show at all, if that much. And then if that's from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And it's a lot of work. And then all the driving time and things like that it takes to do that. But the dogs are the most important thing, and they need to be taken care of, and they need attention, and they need their time. And so eat snacks, get used to it.
Plan ahead.
Have snacks, because you're not going to go have time to sit down and eat much. Grab and go.
Well, I think that's something that's good to be just honest with people, because it can look, really attractive and dazzling to see the best in show lineup and want to kind of start there. But, there's the whole back end work that comes to getting to that point in the first place. And it comes with keeping living things alive and happy, which is a full-time job.
Yep.
You're being a
So
parent for
very much.
25.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jeri. I appreciate you sitting down and sharing with us these stories and about the people who were influential and set you up for such a successful life in the sport of dogs.
Oh, thank you
It
for
was my
asking.
pleasure. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you at a show soon, I'm sure.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
Bye.